wanting to be an ally or talking about allyship and like approaching these like black spaces? Like, how did you actively like try to become, if you did actively try to become a part of the movement or kind of like step into that space?
Yeah.
Like, what was that feel like?
It was hard, dude. Like, I personally have a very unique, I think, background and position when it comes to this kind of thing. My father is a captain in the police department, one of them in town. And I have a family that's very heavily involved with police. And then I also have a lot of very close friends, and actually my girlfriend is an extremely, and very big activist, you could say. When you're told one thing for 18 years of your life, and then all of a sudden you're hearing a different thing. Like the first thing, I mean, I got very defensive often during conversations about this stuff.
Absolutely.
I had friends that were like, oh, like I want to spit on all cops, like that's the worst, you know. Like, and I also saw my dad like afraid to go to Starbucks because he didn't want someone to spit in his drink, like, and that was difficult for me. I grew up hearing one thing from my parents and my dad and my family, you know, like that this is the way things are and this is how you need to view society. And I came to Quinnipiac and I've changed so much from hearing different standpoints I've never even considered before. I don't know, I've just seen a lot of changes in viewpoints for myself personally, and I think I attribute that to I guess a lot of my friends who have just been willing to have conversations with me that I was never, I guess, prone to have before.
That's something that we expect when we talk about student development or young adulthood, right? Like, as you expose yourself to different things, your world starts to change.
No, completely, yeah. And I haven't seen that just in myself. Like a lot of my close friends, and I live in a generally pretty conservative town, and friends that I've known forever that have always been very, very, I guess steadfast in their views and thoughts, like have completely changed tune. And I think that says a lot about, at least our generation in particular, and how much we can actually grow and stay open to, I guess, new opinions and changing in that way.
I remember we hosted like an Instagram Live, and you came in and you were asking questions, and we were talking about like how when you take things such as like allyship and like privilege and these like into account, people have to understand that like if you're stepping something like Black Lives Matter and protesting as a white like bodied person, like you have the ability to like separate yourself out of it. Like you can pull up to a protest with me, Max, and like you can be on the front lines. You can care more than I care, to be honest. You could just leave, and you're just like the white dude Max who just happens to be near a protest. I'm a black dude. I'm inherently going to be seeing like I was a part of that. If I have somebody who says they're on my side and they're vouching like essentially for my life, I don't want it to be like half-hearted, because if things hit the fan and you disappear, that's one, just disingenuous, and two, that could be very much more problematic. I think I respect somebody if they're like, yeah, no. This is not for me. I don't want to like take part in that. Like that's, to me, that's some level of respect, because you're acknowledging like you don't want to step place in that space. That's cool. Stay out of it. But if you're acknowledging like this is a space you want to be in, and you're not actively doing the work to like learn more or like actively hear the stories of the people you say you want to help, and you're trying to control the space for the narrative, that to me is inherently like problematic and leads to various other issues. So.
Like, I'm not sure if I'm someone that would be able, like, I'm just not sure if I could go to a protest, because first of all, my family, like, would probably never want to talk to me again, but also, it's just, I don't know, like, that's so scary to me. But at the same time, like, I found other avenues, like, I was watching documentaries, and I was, doing research and reading about, just historical significance of some of these things, and like
You're jumping on my Instagram Live. You're texting me. You're calling me.
You're a very close friend of mine, and I look up to you a lot. You're my mentor in SGA, and you're someone that I respect.
Shout out my mentee.
My mentor, I got you, man. For real. Well, like, hey, like you're someone that's very close to me, and this is obviously, I guess an issue that is so close to you. So for people like Esau, who I'm so close friends with, like, why should I not do everything I can to understand your plight and try and I don't know, just advocate or just educate myself is, I guess, the best thing that I could have done.
Yeah.
But these conversations were hard to have, and I struggled a lot. There were I had a lot of rough nights, a lot of screaming matches with my family, which really it was a lot of pressure. And I think that I came out of it. I'm definitely I entered this school as someone who's very, I think I'd say conservative, and I now consider myself a left-leaning person, and I can safely say that I support. I believe that I support.
I don't think you necessarily have to be conservative and liberal and have open-minded views necessarily. I think people misconstrue those two narratives sometimes. You would still be a conservative, you still have conservative views, but again, I think people mix being conservative it's it's a black or white thing sometimes, yeah. But again, it's a basic human rights, civil rights thing.
Yeah.
So
No, those labels are dangerous.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Absolutely
That's where
right
it gets
So
difficult.
people feel because of like their social standing or their political ideology or whatever, that they feel like inherently they have to follow or like align with like all the beliefs of like that side or whatever. Again, you would be the most conservative person and still feel and like this was an inherently wrong crime or incident or whatever.
Totally.
Like, you know, you're already going through stuff. You're thinking about like how to address things with your friends, your family, whatever. The last thing or person you want to fight is yourself. Growing up, I did not like cops. Like being around cops, being anywhere like associated with it just made me aggressively uncomfortable. It's not me saying I hated cops. Like I knew people were people like on both sides. Like I'd be lying if I said there weren't people involved who were just showing up to like protests or Black Lives Matter movement protests to stir up the pot, to stir trouble. The same way there are inherently bad apples in like police forces or like the system. But you have to understand, like, one is a body of people moving for a movement, and the other thing is a system that's been in place, that's well funded, well guarded, put it in like has policies.
Like, yeah, so like that's why like my dad is asking me before, like, oh, I want you to fly like a Blue Lives Matter flag like in your room. I want you to post that. I'm like, well, like, Dad, it's inherently a counter movement. The point of this isn't to say like I support cops and I'm proud of my dad who is a cop. The point of this is to say, okay, I don't support the BLM movement. Like that's it was created to be a counter movement.
It's like going to like the women's march and being like, yo, men matter too. It's like, yeah, true,
okay,
bro.
right, but
That's not what we're talking about here.
That's not the issue here. You're in the wrong place. Like it's not what this is about.